So, having learned the basic tools that you need as a beginner, the next important thing that you need to know is the sewing machine and how it works. So, in today's tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you how to handle the sewing machine, from fixing the rope to threading your bobbin to fixing your needle to pedaling your machine footer. Now, before we start learning about the sewing machine, you have to understand that as a beginner, I said it earlier that you should start with your manual sewing machine. This is actually very important. That does not mean that you cannot start with any other machine like the tabletop machine, but sometimes it is far more better to start with your manual machine because you can actually process everything. It is very much easier to use as a beginner. There might be a lot of problems and complications for you to start sewing easily. So I would always recommend you start with your manual sewing machine. So let's get right into today's tutorial. Now, this is a sewing machine. So I am going to show you the manual sewing machine, how it looks, the things that it has. That's the function they perform before I go ahead to show you how to fix your thread, the kind of thread you should go for, how to fix your needle, the kind of needle you should go for, and every other thing that you need to know about your sewing machine. So let's start with the sewing machine head. So basically, this is what the sewing machine head looks like. Now, the very first thing you need to look at in the sewing machine head is where you run your machine. Okay, this particular part of the sewing machine actually is what paddles the foot of the sewing machine. So as I'm rolling it, the next thing that is going to happen is my foot over here will start moving. So I'm going to be taking it down to this part where your foot is moving. So now when you roll your handle, you have to move your leg according to how your handle is moving. Now the very first thing you need to do is to press forward before you keep coming backward, forward and backward like that. So that is very easy on how to paddle your footer. Now let's take a closer look right here at the function of most of the tools that we see right here. Now let's start closely with this. Now in your sewing machine, you would notice this right here. Now this regulates the stitches, okay, for your sewing machine. This part right here regulates the stitches, and this is the major, we call it the gathered stitches. Some people do love to use this part right here to actually sew their clothes, okay? So basically, if it's for me, I am going to be leaving my stitches at this point. And there are some machines that here is way looser that you need to pick it up to this point right here. So preferably just leave your stitch at this point. So at some point when you want to tighten your stitches, you go up here and this is going to give you the tightest stitches you can ever have. So basically this point right here is where you have the tightest stitches and where you have the loosest stitches, okay? So if you want your stitches to be a bit more tighter than that of the gathered stitches, you can take it up again, and at this point you're going to have a little bit more tighter stitches. If you come closer to this place, you'll see that they are numbered. So basically each number, as much as it grows further, actually indicates the tighter the stitches, okay? I hope you understand what this is for. And I've also shown you what this is actually for. This is the handle that you use in rotating your footer. So at this point, when you roll here, your footer is going to roll. Now, after this point right here, this particular point right here is where you place your thread, because you do not want your thread to actually, let me show you what that does. So at this point right here, this is the thread I am going to use. So I'm going to be showing you how to use this thread and fix it right here. Now, one thing I want to make you understand is that when you're getting your thread, make sure that you get polyester or a cotton thread, because you don't want to get through issues where as you're working on your thread, a lot of things are happening. You're having issues where your thread cuts and all of that. It's not a sweet experience, especially for beginners. You could get so frustrated. So make sure you get a cotton thread or a polyester thread, okay? That actually lasts a bit longer, okay? So now I am going to be placing my thread right here. And this point right here, I'm going to show you how I connect my thread. So after placing your thread here, for me, I would take my thread down like so, okay? So I hope you can see what I'm doing, and I'll take it out. So I didn't just pull my thread like this straight, like some other persons would do. So what I did for mine is to take my thread up to this point like so, and this is it. So now, where do you fix the thread the next time you pick it up? So I'm going to be showing you that. Now, after passing my thread over like so, okay, after passing my thread to this point now, the next point, have you seen this point in your sewing machine? Okay, so the next thing you're going to do is to make sure that your thread gets to this point right here. Okay, I hope you understand what I'm doing. So this is where your thread is going to sit in. And then after that, this point right here is the next step. So I am going to just go ahead and I will put my thread and make sure that it enters this point right here. So this is actually basically the next point that you would want your thread to be. So when you are done doing that, the next thing you're going to do is to put your thread in this point right here. So there is a hole right here. So I'm just going to make sure that I place my thread in this hole right here. And I am going to draw my thread out. So I've gotten to this point like so, and my thread has gotten to this point. So if you notice, if I paddle my machine like this, my thread is actually moving. So this point right here, the function is to move the thread and make the thread stitch. Okay, I hope you understand up to this point. And then this already, you know what it does, it drags the thread. So everything about this point and this point controls the thread. And so this point right here is where I am going to be putting my thread next. Okay, if you do not understand, please let me know what you do not understand. Now all these points right here regulates the threading and everything you need to know about threading. And then I will put the thread right here. Now if you miss any parts, it will affect your movement or your stitching. So you have to make sure that you connect it on all these points right here that you do need to connect your thread. So now based on recommendation of the kind of needle to use. So basically, if you can see very well, this is a violin needle. And basically this is for a manual machine, especially I'm using a butterfly. So this goes well for my butterfly sewing machine. I would recommend this particular type of needle. So for me, I am using a size 18. Okay, so my needle is a size 18 needle. And now the size actually matters because there's some machine that doesn't pick size 16, size 12, and there's some, every machine actually differs based on size. So you have to research the size of needle that you need. Now, when fixing your needle, make sure that the side that is not smooth, there are two sides to your needle, okay? Side that is not smooth goes to this left side, okay? It stays like this, and the side that is smooth to this part. So if you fix it wrongly, you will have wrong, it won't stitch, okay? So I'm going to pull it up here, and on this part right here that I had opened up, I'm going to loosen it up till I can fix my needle inside. So I'll push the head of my needle at this point inside. And then I am going to tighten it back. Okay, so I basically gone ahead to tighten it and my needle is fixed. I hope you understand up to this point. But if you do not understand, I would really love you to send a comment so that I would answer the question. So I'm basically done fixing my needle like that. So the next thing I am going to do after fixing my needle is to show you how I can actually thread my bobbin and fix it in this part so that I can start sewing. Now I have a bobbin and a reel. In the last video, I showed you what this two looks like. So today I am going to be showing you what this two perform, okay? So now this is my reel, and have you seen a thread right here? So the reel actually takes thread. So I'm going to be showing you how to reel your thread inside this place and how to fix it right here on your bobbin. Okay, so now the first thing I'm going to do is to pick my thread. So this is my thread right here and this is my reel. So I'm going to be placing my reel right here and I will be working it out. So this is how I'm going to start to get a fame foundation right here. Now after doing that, the next thing I'm going to be doing is to either, it depends, you can decide to place your thread right here. There is something in most of the machines, there's something right here at this point that can actually hold your thread while you're about to reel it. But if you do not have that, for me it depends, I will just place my thread somewhere where I know that I can hold it better. Okay, you're gonna find something like this, something that holds this firmly. Now, whenever you're reeling your thread to your bobbin, make sure that the thread is actually like this, okay? Because if the thread is the other way round, when you're moving your balance wheel, it is going to loosen the thread instead of winding the thread. So make sure that the part at which is actually falling towards this end is the part at which is going to be on your balance wheel. I don't know if that makes sense to you. Now, after doing this, the next thing I am going to do is to cut out my thread. After cutting this out, I am going to be placing it on the bobbin. So this is the bobbin right here. So I'm going to just take my reel and fix it over here. Okay, I hope you've seen this point. So this is the point at which I am going to be fixing it. So I'll just fix it right here. Now, after fixing it, this is a thread right here. So you're going to roll the thread and turn it to this point. I hope you understand what I'm doing. And then fix it into this hole right here. Fix it into this hole and turn it like this. Let me do it for that again. So I pick my thread right here and I fix it into this hole right here and I turn it to this point and it gets to this hole and it comes out properly. So that is how it basically is. So after this one now, I am going to show you how to fix this into your machine. So there's a part right here, okay? I hope you can see this part very well. So this is the part at which I am going to be fixing mine right here, okay? So I'm going to be picking my bobbin and thread right here. I hope you can see, and I will be fixing this hole right here. So this hole that I have right here, I'm going to be fixing it right here, okay? So I am going to make sure that when I fix it, that it's going to click inside the spot right here. I hope that you can see properly, okay? So I'll make sure that this gets into this point and I will click it inside. So it has to have that click sound. Now you can hear that click sound, right? So this is perfectly at this point. It has sat properly at this point. So I have my bobbin and reel fixed, okay? I hope that you can properly see the way it actually looks like so, okay? So this is how it has to be. Now I am done fixing that and I hope that you understand. I'm just going to go ahead and cover this up like so. So I'm covering this up like so and I am pulling this up together. So basically this is how this looks, okay? Now after doing what I just did, fixing the bobbin inside the machine, I'm just going to go ahead and fix my thread inside my sewing machine, okay? So basically I have everything ready right now to start my stitching. Now for those of you that do not know how to work the rope out, I'm going to be showing you how to work my rope out. Now, one thing I want you to understand is that this rope is actually what connects this balance wheel to the footer, okay? Without this rope, you cannot sew. So I'm going to be showing you how to fix the rope, just in case you do not know how to fix the rope, or maybe while you're working on the rope, it actually goes off, okay? So the first thing you're going to do is to put your rope in between the balance wheel and the machine, all right? And I'm going to be moving down to show you where the rope leads to. Now, this is my footer. This is the wheel, okay? So at this point right here, I am going to fix the rope from the balance wheel on the handle, okay, down to this particular place. So at this point right here, I am going to make sure that this rope fits into this wheel. Now, if you notice that once the rope got fixed in, the footer began to move. So this is the function of the rope right here. The wheel itself will start moving as long as the rope is there. Okay, so having done this, the next thing I'm going to be showing you is how to actually use the upper part thread to pick the thread on these other parts that I had fixed my bobbin and reel. Okay, so now what to do next is to everything you have to do with the sewing machine starts with the handle. So the handle right here, I'm going to be pulling my handle up here and making sure that my thread goes down, and then I will drag it out. I don't know if you understand what I just did. Then after dragging it out here, I am going to be using this to pick up this other thread. So I hope you understand. I have successfully pulled this thread out and I can go ahead and sew right now. So how do I now sew? So this part here is what we call the teeth of the sewing machine. So this teeth right here, what is the function? The teeth right here is what actually moves the clothes that you are sewing. If this teeth is bad, you cannot sew. It will not be able to stitch. Your clothes will be having issues, okay, while stitching. So this is the teeth of the machine. And now this particular one is what actually, it works with the teeth to regulate both the needle and the cloth. So the needle actually, if this place is not functioning properly, the needle will not be stitching because it will be hitting on each other, okay? So the next thing I'm going to be showing you is how to actually stitch your first dress. So we have my fabric right here, and I am going to be folding this into two right here, and I'll be showing you how to run your first stitches. Okay, so now when you are done with this thread, you would want to pull your thread down like this and take it to this side. Okay, so this is what I do for myself. So after doing this right here, now the next thing I'm going to do is on this part right here is where I can regulate my sewing, what actually holds this fabric right here. So I'm going to bring it down here. While running your stitches, endeavor to use your hand as a beginner, okay, to hold it down. Just make sure that whatever you have has a straight line in which you can follow, and do this repeatedly until you're perfect. So this is basically it about running my first stitches on my clothing. Okay, it's actually very simple. Then after that, I am just going to pull this out and I will cut out my stitches right here. So if you look at it right here, I have my stitches, I have my straight stitches on the first line, and I have my second straight stitches on this other part. So it's basically very easy for you to go ahead with sewing your clothes, okay? So that is basically it for working with your sewing machine. It's actually very easy. So once you know everything about your sewing machine, every other thing becomes very easy. So you now start learning how to actually work with cutting out your clothes and then stitching on them, okay? So you won't expect this to be so easy at the beginning. Sometimes you can learn pedaling your foot for over 2 days, 3 days. If you do it consistently, you definitely be able to paddle your machine. It's not going to be easy. I am not going to tell you that immediately you just start sitting on your machine, you will do it. And then another thing I would like to also tell you is oiling your machine. Make sure that you oil your machine, okay? This is one of the maintenance tip of your machine. Oil your machine every day, clean your machine every day. Make sure that your machine stays neat and clean, because when you do this, it actually keeps the life, it extends the life of your machine. If you do not do this, you're putting your machine at risk. Working with the machine is just like working with a car. Okay, so everything has to be with servicing. You have to service your machine, you have to keep your car clean, you have to keep everything else clean in your car, service your car, oil your car, and every other thing. So the machine also works like that. Make sure that you always oil your machine at every point in time. Make sure that you always dust your machine, and there shouldn't be threads all around your machine, because it can actually affect your machine at some point in time. So I do hope that this tutorial was helpful. If it was helpful, Please remember to click on the subscribe button and also share this tutorial to help other people. In turn, this will support me just like I am supporting you in your sewing journey. Thank you very much for watching my tutorial. If you have any question, put it in the comment section, and of course I am going to do justice to all of them. I would also like to interact with you on how it went when you started sewing on your machine for the very first time. So in the next tutorial, I am going to be showing you how to read your tape measure, because we're getting very close to stitching our own clothes by ourselves. Always remember to put on your notification bell, because every tutorial I make matters. Each tutorial is a step to making your sewing journey dream come to reality. Thank you very much for watching my tutorial today. See you in the next tutorial. Bye.